You don't have to be corrupt to make a corrupt decision. Research on conflict of interest consistently shows that even well-intended decision makers are vulnerable to biases when personal and professional interest overlap. Kane, Löwenstein, and Moore demonstrated that individuals are often unaware of how private interests distort their professional judgment, and that disclosure alone is insufficient to eliminate the bias. Their findings suggest that structural safeguards, not just personal integrity, are essential to protecting decision quality. Imagine you're a project lead. Your role is clear: choose the best freelancer for an important assignment. 3 people apply. One has the strongest portfolio, one is the cheapest, and one is your closest friend. You are now holding 2 roles, being a friend and being a decision maker. However, your official role is only this: make the best decision for the project. But now secondary interest enters the room. You want to help your friend, you trust them, you know they need the money, and you also want to avoid the awkwardness of rejecting them. And suddenly, the question is no longer who is the best for the project. You will also ask yourself, how will this affect my friend? How will this affect our relationship? And this is a conflict of interest. Not because you are a bad person, and not because you have already made a corrupt decision, but because your professional judgment is at risk of being influenced by a private interest. And as Kane and colleagues showed, that bias often operates below our conscious awareness. That is the key difference between 2 concepts that are easily to confuse: role conflicts and conflict of interest. A role conflict is, I have 2 roles and they expect different things of me. A conflict of interest is, I have one decision-making role, but another interest could bias how I use it. The problem is not that you are wearing 2 hats. The problem is that one hat no longer sits straight, because a private loyalty is quietly shaping our professional judgment. And this is why conflict of interest needs structure. You might disclose the relationship, remove yourself from the hiring process, ask another person to evaluate the candidates, or use a transparent scoring system, because fairness does not only depend on whether you mean it well, it also depends on whether the process protects the decision from your blind spots. So the next time you find yourself making important decisions, pause for a moment and ask yourself, is there a hidden agenda quietly sneaking into the process? List your interests separately, look at each one honestly, and ask yourself where they might be pulling your judgment without even noticing. Because the most dangerous bias is not the one we act on deliberately, it is the one we never saw coming.